Okay, War Room 1. These things are still growing. And look. Look at this. They're ready to come out. There's another one behind it. Oh, look. There's one up here. Where is it? I seen it. I know I seen it. There's one. See? There's one. There's another one coming. This one's not ready yet, I don't think. Right? There's another one. I seen it. I don't know. Look. Yeah, see? Look. Look, we're going back here now. Do you see? There's two there. One behind this one, too. It's hard for me to get back there, though. I don't think there's anything back there. And bushy over here. Andre does pollinate them from time to time. Alright. Probably not as much as he should. He doesn't always find a male. A lot of females, very few males. He goes, Nana, what's all that white little powdery stuff that's coming out of this little flower? And I'm telling him, it's like a male, right? The females can't have babies unless they get impregnated by the male. And that's what you're doing. You're going from flower to flower, making babies. You've been doing a pretty good job. See? One. There's one right there. Oops. One. This one looks like it's kind of red, ready to come in. Do you see? So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's 5. Well, I just picked off some last week. I'm just throwing them into a bag into the freezer right now, so they don't just sit out on the counter and I forget about them. Right? And then, I don't know, I'll use them for cooking. Oh, there's another one. Did we count that one in there? Yeah. And then my lettuce, though, is bolting. You can see. It bolted. Same thing with this one over here. Right? But this aloe vera, since I put it in there, oh my God, it's just growing like a mad dickens. Like, you don't even know. This thing was out on my porch, all beat up, forgotten about, right? It was shriveled up, you know. I brought it in the winter time. And here's another one. So maybe tomorrow I'll pick off these leaves. I'll just try it out, see what happens. I don't know what it tastes like. Here, we'll just go like this. No, they're not. I don't think they're bitter yet. All right. Well, could use them. I don't see why not. And I got parsley down here, so maybe I'll make a little salad with it tomorrow. And just why not? What else is it going to do there? And then I'll start some seeds in here or something. But this guy, he likes it. There's one down there. Do you see? Way down there? And doesn't like it down there. I bet you if I was to put it up here, it would just go nuts. But these guys, they take up a fair amount of room, right? You can see that. And I'm always pinching them back too, eh? You know? So, hold on. Okay, so it is April 11th of 23. I'm attempting to make this Alfredo sauce now. I'm going to do one batch with heavy cream, which I'm going to do now. And then tomorrow I'll do another batch, if not tomorrow, the next day, because I need, actually I won't be able to do it tomorrow, so I'll probably do bacon tomorrow, because I just want to get this stuff done with, right? And ham hock. Because I need one more of these and my son has to get it for me, so That will be the following day. And that one will be done with half and half cream with milk instead of heavy whipping cream. Pretty much the same ingredients in terms of, I thought it was just sour cream, but it's not. You have to have sour cream, cream cheese, and Parmesan cheese, this kind. Not the kind that's already pre-shredded, quote-unquote, technically, or the shake kind. However, if you had no choice, what I would do with the pre-shredded one that's like bought in a bag in the, you know, cheese section, I'd blanch it quickly with boiling water, or I'd put it in a strainer and pour boiling water over it, move it around just to wash away some of the oils. Because I guess when they shred them, they spray them with a bit of oil, and with that oil, it doesn't combine well with whatever it is you're trying to do when you're making Alfredo sauce. That's why you want to use this kind of cheese. Same thing with the shake kind, I would assume, right? So I am going to do one batch after the fact, after I'm done the bacon and, you know, this and whatever, right? With pre-shredded or in a, you know, shake kind, right? In a can, right? Dried. I don't know. We'll see. Just to see. It's not going to kill you. It's just it won't be as smooth as you'd like it to be, right? Now, this is somebody else's recipe. Other women have done it. This is called Rebel Canning, My Kitchen, My Rules. Alright, so if you choose to do it for yourself, you do it at your own risk. Right? But it boils down to that golden rule. Put it in a pot, bring it to a boil, right? Not a hard boil, but just bring it to a boil, put on a lid, turn it down, stir it around every now and then so it doesn't scorch on the bottom, right? And just have it at that low boil for 10 minutes or so and you'll be fine. So before I start putting this in a pot and cooking it, it's cold, so I'm just gonna, I'm cutting them. The butter. This one calls for butter as well. Now you don't, I've seen videos where you don't have to pressure can butter for 75 minutes, right? In this recipe, the woman here, she pressure cans for 10 minutes, vents for 10, puts on the weight, pressure up to pressure, and then 10 minutes, and then turns off the canner. Because what happens is, if you cook milk product too long, it starts to caramelize. So it makes sense. Some women just bring the pressure canner up to 10 pounds and then turn it off. Where in this woman, she carries on with that 10-minute and then turns it off. Right? And she's happy with the results. So I'm going to go with that one. And I've decided to use the butter because, you're going to be boiling it anyway. You're not going to be eating it straight out of a jar. And if it's going to spoil, it's going to spoil. And you're going to notice it more than likely even before you open the jar, because you'll be able to see it, right? And if it's spoiled, you're definitely going to smell it, right? So you wouldn't even go as far as putting it in a pot and boiling it, unless, of course, you wanted to boil it and then boil it for 10 minutes and then discard it, just in the event that there might be that botulism. Okay? But butter by itself, I'd still do it 75 minutes in the pressure canner. I have no problems with that. It comes out pretty good. You just have to shake it, right? Milk is a different kind of food that, I don't know. it preserves differently because the pH is different, right? So, and a lot of this stuff is already, did you know, and I'll tell you this for a fact, Velveeta cheese, well, cheese, right? As long as it's wrapped up, will sit in your fridge forever. Okay. Velveeta cheese. I had a Velveeta cheese in this fridge years ago when all my kids were around and everything. And it sat in the fridge for like 2 years. Right? And then one day Shmee got into it and started eating it. It was perfectly fine, people. I ate it too, okay? It was in its original package. And it just sat in the fridge and got forgotten about. It's the same thing with this stuff, right? Those tubs with these on the, right, on top. You get the bigger tubs, like a yogurt tub with cream cheese with the silver lining on top. As long as you don't open that silver lining, it will sit in your fridge for years. I'm telling you. I know that for a fact. Even these will sit for a long time. As long as the air doesn't get inside them, because these are usually packed pretty tight, right? And they will sit in a fridge. You don't necessarily have to freeze them. I prefer the tubs, I find, you know, right? Because this is just kind of like this, right? But yeah, like, you know, that because it's just the way it is. So with that said, you know, it's cannibal, right? I've watched enough videos that they even can cream cheese. I wouldn't. I'd buy the tubs. Serious, I'd buy the tubs, and I wouldn't, because as soon as you open them and you expose them to the air, that's where you get the problem. But if you don't open them and don't pull off that silver tab, they'll sit in your fridge. If you don't put them in the fridge further in the back, if you're opening and closing all the time, right? They're downstairs in Auntie Shmei's fridge, they'll sit forever, man. I'm telling you, they will. Just like Velveeta cheese. So, because the properties of it are different. Now, not all cheeses are like that, right? But Velveeta for sure, and definitely cream cheese, and they're perfectly fine. So that's why I feel comfortable about canning this, right, at 10 minutes in a pressure canner, right? Because any longer than that, you're going to start caramelizing your milk products, pretty much, except for maybe butter, right? Butter can handle pressure canning for 75 minutes, no problem. And butter can sit out on the counter for a very long time without spoiling. On the farms, they very seldom had butter in a cool, you know, like a fridge. And they didn't even have fridges, people. Right? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to link in the video for this recipe to the individual who made this stuff regularly for herself. So if you're interested, you can do that. And of course, you can still Google canning Alfredo sauce on YouTube, and you're going to get a couple of other videos coming up. One you might even come across where the lady says, well, if you use heavy whipping cream, it's going to come out too thick. Whereas if you use half and half and milk, it's not as thick. I don't know. I don't even know what Alfredo sauce technically tastes like, honestly. I'm just doing this because I know that we're going to be making more noodles and stuff. So, I'm trying to make it convenient. I sent my son's girlfriend to the store for me today. Because I told her, I just want to finish up, right? With these little top off things. And I bought a ham hock the last time I went myself. But we know I wanted to do more. Oh, that's so good. But we know I wanted to do more bacon, right? And I wanted fresh cream cheese. And I needed an extra. Well, I needed actually 2 of these, but she didn't know I wanted 2. She just bought me 1, so I can't make the other one until my son goes and buys me one. Okay, so whatever. Anyway, she bought me, this is $157. 1 ham hock, so I have 2 now. So I'm going to can those in those little salmon jars or whatever I got with the bacon. I'm going to do some just ham hock and some combined with bacon after I degrease in the oven. And then I'm going to can the grease separate, right? But that will all be done in a pressure canner for 75 minutes. Okay. She got me 1 ham hock, 1 of these, 1 unsalted butter, 3 blocks of cream cheese, which were coming in at almost $6 a block. Holy shit. 2 1-key thick sliced bacons, which is 2.2 pounds times 2, right? So that's 4.4 pounds of bacon, which was like $40. And then 2 single slice, thin slice bacons at almost $7 a pack. And some strawberries, 2 mangoes, a few apples. What else? I think that's it. $157, people. I said, holy crumb. Now you know why I do what I do. Seriously. Mm-hmm. They love the police, but when she called the police, yeah, and told the police that but you kind of want to try and get out and about and snag these things when they're on sale. Mm-hmm. Or at least half of what you're going to work with, right? Maybe not everything you'll get on sale, but half of whatever, right? But whatever, like, I told her, I said, I feel so sorry for you and your generation. Like my son, and just, never mind my grandkids, people. You know, I pointed out how the government is trying to bring in their smart cities, and these buildings that they're building out our way are the next generational slums for the landlords that are living in the monster houses in their smart city, and we live in this smart city, and these, you know, which will become bug infested, mouse infested, whatever buildings in less than 20 years. And you know, they're phasing out meat, protein, and they're going to kill off all the birds, and you know, they're going to bring in their Ebola and just whatever, and just whatever. It's like, what the hell? Like, it's so stupid. Like, what kind of life is that, people? Like, seriously. Life is a fantasy, right? The majority will eat bugs, while the other ones won't. You know? People will live in these, and the only reason they're so expensive right now is because they're new, but they're not well made. You know, they're not sturdy structures, and they're coming in with basements that are flooding out, that they have to pump out. And Andre says that building over there, the fire alarm's going off all the time, and whatever. It's so crooked. The world is so crooked. And you're helpless. You're helpless to help your kids. You know, you're helpless to help your grandkids. I mean, how do you protect them from the evil and the corruption that's all around us? Like, how do you protect them? I don't know. And so many people are in denial. Or just resigned to go with the flow. Because it's like, what can you do? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what you can do. You can isolate who's responsible for it. Mm-hmm. And constantly remind them how they instigate it. They are monitoring everything that Rita say. And really take a good look at what you're looking at. As a start. So now I have to shred 2 of these. Oh, that cream cheese is so good. And I got the cream. So what's the ingredients? Let's see. I think I can see with these ones. On my computer, I'm using those glasses where one lens is missing. But my eyes did get worse since I seen the eye doctor, and he did this, people. Oh, yeah. They did. So 2 sticks butter, unsalted, 2 quarts heavy cream, whipping cream, 8 ounces grated Parmesan cheese. Oh, I only need 1 of these. What was I thinking? This is 250 grams. It comes up a little over 8 ounces, I think. Oh, well, there you go. Maybe I don't need another one. Oh, 16 ounces cream cheese. Oh, I don't have, I got it backwards. It's that eye brain fog, you know. 5 teaspoons garlic powder and salt and pepper to taste. So, I'm going to be short on, oh, hold on, 16 ounces, so 250 grams is 16 ounces. Yeah. A little over 16 ounces, not much, a little bit. I'm pretty sure 250 grams is 8 ounces. Almost 8 ounces, a little more. I better double check this before I get too far into it, right? And I'm just letting it warm up a little bit into room temperature, because when you start bringing it to heat it, you want to heat it kind of slowly, right? Just, right, like when people can milk and want to keep it like milk versus like an evaporated milk, you don't want to caramelize it. You bring your pressure canner up slowly, very slowly. You heat it up slowly. And then they vent, put the gauge on, the weight, they bring it to pressure, and then they turn it off. And that cans the milk, and it kind of keeps it like quote-unquote milk. Whereas if you take it to 10-15 minutes under pressure, I think it's about 15 minutes. After 10 minutes, it's getting iffy, right? Then it starts to become an evaporated milk. Either or. I don't plan on canning quote-unquote milk. I'm not worried about that. Whipping cream, I don't know. I might try that just because I like cream, right? And it's expensive. Oh, I better figure this out here. I wasn't going to turn on the camera. I was just going to do this and maybe turn it on for the next video, like the next batch, right? But when I said, no, people need to know. People need to know that cream cheese, unopened, will sit for years. At least over a year, if not longer, in your fridge. Preferably the yogurt container type tubs with that seal on top. As long as you don't open it, don't expose it to no air, and it's a nice cool fridge. Further to the back, if you're opening and closing the door all the time, it will sit forever. Just like Velveeta cheese. Unopened, it will sit forever. And I thought, well, you know, I don't think too many people know that. Even these. I've had these sitting in Auntie Shemai's fridge in the bottom, right? Not in the freezer. I got some in the freezer too, but just on the bottom, and sat there for like, who knows, forever. Right? And I brought one up. I peeled it open. It was fine, people. It was fine. It was perfectly fine. So when you expose it to air, it becomes the problem. And I thought, well, people need to know that, especially in this time and age. Because, you know, with like really $157, it was like 2 bags. Oh, but it, you know, bacon. And I'm like, yeah, now you know why I'm canning bacon. Right. So hold on a minute. Okay, so I got the first batch in the canner, only 6 jars. And the garlic, man. It's only garlic powder, but you know, ever since I worked in this yard, for as long as I did, people, I'm telling you, it fucked me over. But this is so good. I like it. It has a unique taste. Now I'm going to be making more. Yeah, I'll probably... I have a fair amount of Parmesan cheese because I thought I had to use 2 of them for 1 batch, but I only need to use 1. And I know I have extra cream in there yet. It should be still okay. So, we'll see. I should check it tonight. And then if it's not, then my son can buy me some tomorrow. And I'm gonna make. I only got 6 jars, so I'm gonna probably make 24 jars by the time I'm done. But it's really good. I like it, and it's right. So it's a good size. You don't want to go any bigger than a pint size, apparently. It can't handle. What is this? It can't handle. I don't know. It can't handle, what is it called? Being canned in quart size. Apparently they pop. Or they're prone to pop. Where pint size seem to do better. Right? So, I don't know. We'll see. Okay, so now it's the next day. It is what it is. So, I've done my first batch of Alfredo sauce. Now, apparently there's a whole bunch of different kinds from different companies, right? And everybody has their way of making it. And I don't know, I guess it boils down to taste. Well, texture too. And smoothness, which is texture. And just... Okay, so this is what I've accomplished. In terms of color, from what I can see, does that look pretty white or does it look more gray?
White.
So, being that it looks more white, it hasn't been overcooked where it becomes evaporated milk products. Okay? And therefore, that's why it retains its color. That's why when women do stuff like this, they only keep it at best at 10 pounds per pressure for 10 minutes, and then they turn off the canner, and so on. Now, I did have siphoning. Siphoning is a problem with canning, apparently, milk, cream, those kind of things. More so than, say, juice or stock or whatever. So it's always recommended to bring up the heat slowly, and then when you turn it off, give it enough time to really kind of level out on its own in terms of the ambient temperature within the canner compared to what's on the outside, so that when you do open the lid, you don't get that, so that vortex starts to go and, right? They really try to prevent siphoning. Now, I had one jar so far that didn't seal. So that's in the fridge. Now I have a choice. Let me just go turn this off for a second. Because this is kind of serious stuff, you know, because I'm thinking, right? And if I can get something where I'm like happy with it and my family's happy with it and it's doable, then yeah, I'd go out of my way to do this on a fairly regular basis, depending on how much is being used within, we'll say, a year, or maybe even every 6 months, right? Depending on the size of the family.
For Walmart specifically, historically high levels of theft sparked increased prices and total store shutdowns in particular areas.
The United States is going into very dire straits here, like big time. Oh yeah. 150 Walmart stores shutting down. That's a lot of employees. Losing their jobs. And a lot of these store locations, they're liquidating out of like geographical areas where there tends to be a higher density population of the working poor, or those below, you know, within and below the poverty line. So you've got the, you know, below the poverty line, you've got the poverty line, and then you've got the working poor with a few middle, you know, class or whatever, not even, I wouldn't even consider them to be middle class. And then of course you've got the upper echelons, right? But besides that point. So with a lot of people losing their jobs, and you know, people can't go to major food, because it's not just Walmart. Apparently they have Sam's, Aldi's, Whole Foods, and a lot of those companies are liquidating and closing down their brick and mortar stores, right? As the people are being nudged, right, towards that CBC, where it's digital currency, and you know, you're kind of having to resort to maybe shop more online because you don't have the big box store in your local area anymore, or you can't afford to go drive to it. Or maybe at some point in the future you just won't be allowed to drive to it because of that 15-minute smart cities. You know, like, we're like caged animals, just, I don't know. So, anyway, what I'm doing with this Alfredo sauce, you know, I'm kind of like mopey, you know, but that's besides the point. I have to go outside for the next couple of days. My son's girlfriend's dad apparently has a dump truck, and he's a mechanic. I said, why would your dad need a dump truck? If you know, like, what does he do, right? You know, he's a mechanic. Well, what, he just likes to have a dump truck, you know, right? So, anyway, he's coming with his dump truck. So that will, you know, clean up my son's mess for sure, right? And I need to get out in the yard and start gathering up a few things here and there and start figuring out my mode of attack when it comes to those hammer repairs with the wood and just whatnot, and with the few limited resources that I have in terms of, you know, materials, right? So I only have the 1 day to can, and that's today, because I'll probably be out in the yard for 2 or 3 days. And then after that, then I'm going to get into ham hocks. I got 2 big ones, smoked ham hocks, and 2 big packets of thick bacon at 1 key each, which is 2.2 pounds per pack, so that's 4.4 pounds. And 1 or 2 thin slice, just regular pack. And then I'm going to combine all those together somehow, some way. And then once I'm done that, I don't need to do that for a while, right? I'll give a few to my son and his girlfriend so they can try it out. Let me know what they think of it, and if it's doable. And of course, I am going to incorporate them into my scheduled menu plan in terms of those staples. It's just another staple, right? Right along with these things. Or I bought those sauces in the can. I have to recan. I'll probably recan in this size, right? And then we got the peaches and whatever else. But all that is on the back burner. Today I'd like to do another batch of Alfredo sauce. Now I have cream in the fridge unopened, and I did buy the half and half, and I do have a jug of milk downstairs. So I'm not sure. This one here didn't taste too bad. This time, instead of pressure canning it, I'm going to water bath it. Because there's another way you can preserve this, and that would be to water bath it, apparently, with the water up to here. Because if you go above the jar and you start to siphon, it's just, there's something different about milk products, okay? And I'm going to use the Velveeta cream cheese in the block, right along with the cream cheese in a block, or in a tub with a sealed lid. I know for a fact those things can sit in a fridge for years and not go bad. I know it. Already been there, done that. Okay. And with that said, that tells you right there that once that type of product, I would say, right, has been pasteurized to a point where it can create a product that can do that. Now, mind you, if the Velveeta bag was ripped, air got in there, there is the possibility it could start to mold, or it just simply might dry out. Either or, because it's a cheese, you can cut off a whole bit, right? Throw that out, give it to the animals, whatever, and the rest will still be fine. Okay? Because mold can't really travel through cheese. And I think this is why it doesn't spoil as fast. With that cottage cheese, when I did the dehydrating of the cottage cheese, because the cottage cheese is in little, curds, right? Compacted, there's pockets of air. Once mold starts, and that's like with bread, anything with pores, it starts to travel through, and then it gets into the inside of whatever it is, and it becomes completely spoiled, right? And you can't trust that kind of product. Even if you think you scoop it up off the top and you don't see nothing else, like I did with that cottage cheese, you go to take a scoop and you put it in your mouth and you're like, no, and you see a little black spot in there and you spit it out, and then you go and you look and you move that and you realize that it was a patch of mold in that cottage cheese. I mean, like, no, you see, common sense, right? A lot of it boils down to common sense. So, being that we have cream cheese in here, okay, which has a low spoil rate when it's sealed, okay, and we know that because it can sit in the fridge for a long time in its original container, especially those tubs. I always get worried about them when they're in those little packets, but I also get surprised when I go and I grab one that's been sitting there for 7 months, open it up, and see no mold. And what does that tell you? And it tastes perfectly fine, and it is fine. Okay? Same thing with the Velveeta. The Velveeta can sit there for a year or two in its original package. Somebody can come and open it, and it will be fine. So, with that said, cream cheese is shelf stable to some degree in a cool, preferably cold environment, right? Depending on how it's being processed. Okay? Butter technically doesn't really spoil per se unless it's baking hot, you know, and it's melted and, you know, it's been sitting around for a while, and then, yeah, maybe it might go a little rancid, but if it's in a cool environment and it's a block, you know, it's usually pretty good for a fairly long time. Like, some people never ever put their butter in the fridge unless, of course, it's like in the middle of summer and it's melting on your counter, then maybe you might. But in itself, because of that pasteurization, and I don't know, it's not a food source when combined together as a whole, spoils quickly. Everything eventually spoils to some degree. Some things just take years and years and years and years, and even then it becomes plant food, depending on what it is. And if not that, then maybe feed the worms in the compost, right? It all depends on what it is. Okay, so we've got the sour, so we've got the cream cheese, which is, I don't want to say self-preserving, but it's kind of like that, right? The butter, same, you know, I'd put cream cheese at a higher percentage than the butter, because the butter tends to have a bit more fat, but fat isn't necessarily your enemy either, right? And then we've got the Parmesan cheese, which cheese in itself, unexposed to the air, once congealed, right, in terms of it just hardens up, and right, the worst that it's going to happen, the longer this sits in the jar unopened, is the cheese itself is going to age and get a little more quote-unquote sharper. And when I tasted this video is getting long, just over one freaking jar of Alfredo sauce. When I tasted this, I didn't really taste, I don't know what I was tasting. It was good though. It was really nice, really. And I'm glad that one jar didn't seal, because now I can go into my fridge and I can grab a jar, crack it open, and take a spoon and start eating. Well, maybe I'll put some in a bowl, and then I'll start eating, right? And then we'll just see what happened between coming out of the canner and then going into the fridge and sitting in the fridge for, you know, 12, 18 hours. You know, does the taste change? Does the texture change? I don't know. Never done it before. Whipping cream doesn't spoil as fast as milk. You can buy a whipping cream in January, February, March, come into April without it being unopened. There's a very high probability that you could still use it in terms of cooking. You know, cut some onions, put your whipping cream in there, boil it away, throw your potatoes in there, bring down, you know, boil off some of the, you know, moisture within the whipping cream, and it thickens up into a nice sauce. That is possible. So that is another kind of self-preserving food for whatever reason, in a roundabout sense, right? And women are canning whipping cream. They're canning half and half. They're canning whole milk. They're canning sour cream. They're canning cream cheese. They're canning cheddar cheese, mozzarella. Like, these are all the videos I've seen over the years, right? Okay. And they recan nacho cheese sauce from number 10 cans, if they come across them. Obviously, you know, there's a few out there doing Alfredo sauce. So just with, my experience, and like, I think this is a really good idea. I do believe it is shelf stable, because at the end of the day, it wouldn't matter if it was a can of beans, green beans, or I want to do some great northern white beans with some corned beef in a Boston maple style syrup with onions. I'm hoping to do that today. I don't know though. We'll see. I got to do another batch of this first, and then I'll probably burn out. But anyway, or if it was a jar of corn, or any like meat, fish, you'd heat it up anyway, right? You'd be foolish not to. If you had no choice, then I'd understand it, right? You're sitting in the bush and you came across a jar unopened and you're hungry, by all means. If you can't start your own fire to cook it for 10 minutes, then yeah, eat it straight out of the jar. Chances are you probably won't get sick. But, we have stoves and pots and those kind of things. So it's not like we have an excuse not to, right? Don't assume, right? Well, it would be the same thing. You'd open this up, you'd put it in a pot, you bring it to that boil, then you turn it down a bit with a lid. You keep stirring it so it doesn't scorch on the bottom. Add a little bit of water if you need to make it to the consistency that you want. Do that for 10 minutes and you're good to go. You're good to go. So I feel okay doing this. I do. I think that's the point, right? It's just you want to make it good to the best of your ability, right? You know what I'm saying? Right? So I'm like, okay, everybody does their Alfredo sauce different. So that means you can do your way, right? Don't be afraid to, I don't know, try different things to make the same end type of product. Like, for example, I seen this chef. I like this idea, but I'm not going to do it today. I'm going to keep it simple right now. I seen this chef making Alfredo sauce, and he put some olive oil in a pan, right? He fresh garlic, a whole bunch, and you don't scorch it. You just want it to, he called it sweating, to sweat out the flavors and everything into the olive oil, right? And so, right? And then he got shallots. He said shallots were not as strong as onions. And he put them in with the garlic. And then he sauteed without scorching anything, right? For the most part, right? I guess. You don't want to scorch them, right? And then just want to seep them, the flavors into the oils. And then he added some wine, white wine, and he rattled off some brand, I don't know. And then he, I don't know, I guess he brought up the heat and he cooked off the alcohol, right? And brought it down by half of whatever he put in. And then from there, he took that mixture, he put it in a strainer, he strained it so to, to take away the pulp from the garlic and the shallots, and all you were getting was the liquid from the result of everything you combined together, right? And then from there, that's when he added his milk and whatnot. But he didn't go as far as to add in the extra ingredients like the sour cream or even the cream cheese, for that matter, into, right? He started off good, but then he ended up weak in terms of the amount of ingredients that you can put in to make an Alfredo sauce. Like, you can actually do 4 different cheeses to make this. Romano is, or 2. You can do, I guess, the cream cheese, the Parmesan cheese, well, maybe not the Parmesan cheese. Yeah, no, there's like hard block cheeses. There's 4 different types of hard block cheeses that you can use, whether like Parmesan with Romano, and that's one recipe, where the other one is those 2 plus 2 more within that recipe. So I'm kind of thinking about that for later, right? We'll see. We'll see. We'll see how fast we use these things. Or I don't know yet. I just know that I think this would be a good staple to have. You know, you could incorporate this once into the house, you know, like the weekly or bi-weekly menu. Like you wouldn't eat it every day, but you could eat it once a week or once every 2 weeks, right? That is doable. So cream is not a milk product that has a tendency to spoil quickly, whereas milk is very, you know, volatile when it comes to that, right? I know nothing about half and half. Don't use it, never cook with it. You know, I did buy it to do one recipe with milk and half, because apparently this is supposed to be too thick. So if you use cream or hers is too thick, I don't know. So anyway, okay, so back to how I'm going to can it this time. Now I've done pasteurizing with a water bath, with the pickles, and I've done certain fruits. I have those in video. You can do that with blueberries. You know, you don't have to boil everything. But when you pasteurize, you tend to just, once you get to that 190, which is the 185, 190, which is the pasteurizing heat, right? And you hold it there for at least 3 minutes. You've basically pasteurized your food in terms of killing off pathogens. Okay? In terms of botulism, they say you have to bring it up to 240 degrees for 3 minutes to kill off those spores, right? Which is different than what you would do at 190. And that's why people go into the pressure canner to bring up the heat to that temperature for at least 3 minutes within your processing time. Okay? And even then, there are no guarantees. You still have to heat up your food for 10 minutes if it's a low acid food, blah, blah, blah. Okay. If you put it in a pot of water like I'm going to do, like the Scandinavian women do, because they don't have, in the old days, they didn't have pressure canners. They used water bath, and they held it at a fixed temperature for the most part for a long time, 3 to 4 hours, which compensated for having it in a pressure canner and having it reduced by 2/3 of that time, because the pressure canner brings up the heat real fast, okay, and is capable of doing that. Whereas with the water bath, it's going to take time for that heat to build, right? And even if you turn it on max, right? You know, I'd say, Uncle John, why you let your water boil all the time? It's boiling, can't you see? Turn off the stove. You know, he says, I like it hot. I said, what do you mean you like it hot? The bloody thing is boiling. No. Let it boil, it gets hotter and hotter. And you know, he's true, he was right, people. That's what happens that's why the Scandinavian women, or the old grandmas from back in the day on the farms and whatnot, you know, they'd cook it from 3 to 4 hours, you know, just on a, you know, just at that medium to low boil with a lid on to build up that pressure slowly but surely, and then over that space of time, at some point, that heat is going to travel through the jar, right? But it's at a more gradual rate, okay? Pressure canner, it's being forced, you know, because it heats up fast, you vent, and then the pressure starts to build, right? And it's pushing, but either or, I think I'm going to try my next batch. Because it's all just an experiment. With it being in a pot with water just up to here, apparently, because it interferes if you cover it up, and I could see that, right? And I think it's 30 minutes or 1 hour. I can't remember. 10 minutes in a pressure canner. I think it's 30 minutes in this type of a water bath situation, to which I'd probably put a lid on it. And I know what pot I'm going to use. I think I can get 6, 7 jars. I'm going to try it this way. And then this way, the issue of heating up milk too fast, too quickly, in a pressure canner is kind of alleviated. Not to say that I won't do it again, in terms of what I just did last night. I will, but, you know, I want to try it the other way first. Oh, yeah. Never, ever, ever use a roll of toilet paper my paper towels are gone. I needed to wipe my rims. This is just a tip. I go, you know, I've done it before in the past under, you know, right? I wet it. I didn't put vinegar on it. I wiped the rims, and then I had to just top off. So I had to wipe the rims again. So I'm folding like this, as, you know, whatever, right? And when I was eating, I came across that little bit of, like, what was that? Honestly, I think it was a little toilet paper ball. Because I'm like, what is this? You know, it's not supposed to be in there. That's not cheese. And I was thinking about, well, sometimes we have to learn our lessons the hard way, right? So don't make the same mistake. Just look for anything. A rag is the best. Apparently, don't ever use vinegar when you're dealing with these kind of products, to which I agree. It's not worth the stress. For the amount of time that you put into this stuff and the amount of money that you spend, depending on what you're putting in the jar, you know, the last thing you need is your jar curdling because you got a little tad bit of vinegar in there when you were wiping the rims with your toilet paper. I'm just saying. Oh my God. So anyway. I'm not up for this, people. You don't even know. But I just want to finish it. So, I'm going to wash these jars. Yeah. It feels like they all siphoned. Right? Which, being that it's somewhat gritty, I can feel it. Whatever was siphoning from up underneath the jar, you have to keep in mind now. I'm going to end this in a minute. It's going to compromise your seal. Okay? To some degree or another. How much, we don't know until 6 months go by and you come and you run your hands over your jars and you find one that is popped and you take it out and you may or may not see, because it really depends when it popped, right? And how long it sat there to breed bacteria, right? Either or, if it's a pop, you wouldn't want to use it. Unless, of course, maybe it was a butter or something and it didn't smell bad and you knew you were going to cook it up hard and, you know, fry and heat it up high and, you know, and it'd probably be fine because butter. It's just the fact that it's butter, right? There's something special and magical about butter. And same thing with cream cheese and Velveeta cheese and those kind of things. So, okay, I will come back when I'm ready. And you just pace yourself through this, right? I figured these ones, after I clean them up and label them, I may or may not put them in the fridge. Just because, not that they need to, they don't. It's just as an added measure, right? To prevent it from popping, only because it's siphoned too much, in my opinion. And I can understand why these women try to avoid siphoning at any cost. And that's why I'm thinking to do the water bath with the pasteurizing method. Only the heat would be a bit more higher than at pasteurizing. I'd have it more at a lower, like a medium boil versus a very low, right? When you pasteurize at 190, it's just coming to that boil. It's not even at the boil. It's just right at that boiling point, right? And but for something like this, I'd probably have, you know, If your water line is up to here, and you're boiling up to here, then you're in a safe zone. But don't forget, I want the lid on. So we'll have to see, but you adjust. To see if that will help with the siphoning, right? Because it already has Parmesan cheese, which is a natural preservative to it within itself, right? The cream cheese, which is a natural preservative within itself in a sealed environment. Cream, real whipping cream, obviously if you could get it from a cow, that would be the best, but it has it's stable to not spoil quickly because of fat. Same thing like with the butter. So it has more natural preserving agents in itself than as if it only had one ingredient. So these ones I might put in the fridge just because of the siphoning. I don't know. Or maybe I'll just put them somewhere in Auntie Shemay's room where it's really, really cold and just monitor them. That's all you can do. Check them once a week to see if they're popping, right? Because part of the success of home canning is so that you can go back in 5 years and still find your jar sealed. Right? That's where the savings come in. That's where a lot of the food security comes in. Right? That's why it's important that these companies that are manufacturing these cans these days continue to make quality cans as they put food into them so that people have them years down the line. Right? Versus, it's a disposable economy. Use and throw it away, right? And when you get it, you better use it right away, because if you don't, it's going to spoil. Like that's not right. It shouldn't be like that. Not when it comes to this kind of stuff. Whether it's home canning or whether it's in a can itself. Okay, I will be back. Okay, so I guess this is for women in the rural areas, like out in the country, and maybe don't have a cow, and they got to drive, right, a ways, especially in the States, people, to get to a major store where they can, stock up on milk, right, to go home and feed their family for the week kind of thing. And so, they resort to canning their milk and whatever. Anyway, it was stated by one of those women that do that, that when you can milk, you want it as fresh as it can be. You don't want to get milk that's past or coming to its due date, right? Thinking, oh, well, it's due in 3 days, it's a good deal, it's discount, blah, right? I'm going to buy it and I'm going to go home and can it tomorrow and it will be great. And for the women that do that kind of stuff, they say, nah, it's just better if you get fresher milk if you're going to can milk. However, this is where I come in. Now, if you look at this, now I haven't opened it yet, but look on it. Look at the date on it. What says March 17th? That's when I went to my eye doctor. Somewhere around that. Yeah, it was March 17th. Anyway, I've got this one. I think I got another one or two in there yet. So I'm going to be doing this for a while, and I'm going to. Okay, so I'm going to basically do what I did yesterday in terms of the amount of ingredients and the types of ingredients, unless I decide to change something through that process in terms of maybe, like I'll tell you in a minute. And I got some sour cream. I've got the sour cream that's fresh. Now I do have some older cream cheese in tubs, and if not, I've got a tub downstairs that's been down there for who knows, unopened. Okay, so if I can't use what's in my fridge, then I got my backup, which is older than if I was to go to the store and buy it fresh. What I'm trying to say is, okay, granted, you can't really can whole milk at about their due date or beyond, because the milk itself is unstable compared to a cream, a whipping cream sitting in a container like this unopened for 2 or 3 months past its due date and still being okay to consume.
And they wait 17 years
Just saying.
to close the stores. The chain first opened in Chicago area
It's a magic food.
17 years ago, but it faced many challenges even after investing.
So what we're going to do is we're going to open them up after we shake them, and we're going to smell them, and then we're going to taste them. And if they smell okay and they taste okay, then they're okay. And I'm not concerned about doing what I'm doing. However, I wouldn't do it with milk. No.
And the health center.
Because milk can't sit in its jug for 3 months like this can. There's a difference between the makeup.
Market, Cottage Grove Avenue.
Tastes like cream.
Lakeview Neighborhood Market, Broadway Street.
Tastes good.
Little Village Neighborhood Market.
Smells like cream. I always like to put here where it's fairly clean. Right? You don't know what my hands are touching. I just pour a little bit on like that.
You don't have those same amount of hours to sell things anymore, but you also don't have those really late hours where nobody's really there and you can kind of do anything you want to do. So maybe
it's doable.
Those Walmarts were being used for something else.
It's not rancid.
Like
it's not fresh, but for what I need it for, it's doable. I would cook with it, I would eat it, and I'd probably whip it up too.
And also for barbers.
So if I can do that,
Walmart has Chicago stores
then I can can it. And because I know the makeup around it compared to milk, quote unquote, I'm not too concerned.
Can you imagine what would happen?
There, see, that's what I do.
50% cut in any resource that you relied upon.
This one tastes better. But I drink a lot of coffee and shit, right? So it was my first swig, right? So these are fine. And now we're going to get into the cream cheese that I have. And as long as, because they're open containers, right? And as long as they're not moldy on top, they'll be fine, which I don't think they are. Because I buy bagels and stuff like that, and Andre eats, but sometimes you know how those things just get tucked off to the back. I think there's like one that's almost empty and one that might be half empty, which will be perfect for what I need. Right? And I've got the Parmesan, I've got the unsalted butter, I've got the garlic powder. You know, I did a whole bunch of spices back in the day. And I know I bought different kinds of pepper. I don't know, I may have even bought white pepper. But do I know where it is? So I had this little container of pepper that I had a few little white peppers, and I'm picking them out, right? And grinding them up in my little grinder thing, so, you know, I don't have these little black pepper spots. My kids will be like, ooh, what's that? There's little black spots all over. That's pepper. Like, what's the matter with you? What I'd like to do, as in my way, getting creative with it, thinking, you know, honestly, and I might do it too. I might. I don't know. I have to see how my oils are. I might do a little bit of olive oil and saute. Well, now I need the onions for the beans. Just keep it simple for now, right? We're doing the stovetop thing with the boiling water, so that's being different. I don't have to start necessarily changing the ingredients or trying to add new taste to it. That's maybe the next video. Because right now we just want to repurpose our cream while we still can. Because I was going to make butter with this and can it, but it never made it. That's what happened, right? Yesterday's cream was something that I bought like a week and a half ago, so that was fresher than this cream, right? But these ones might have or may have, might not or may have little bits of toilet paper in them. So
Population
I'm like,
is
duh,
actually 45.3%.
duh. I highly doubt it, but obviously when it gets wet, it falls apart very easy. So
It's against
avoid toilet paper at all costs. I knew that. I just get lazy sometimes. I get frustrated. You know, who wants to go digging for paper towels? I have some, but I have to go digging for them. That was just convenient, but for what it was worth, don't do it. Okay, I'll be back. Okay, so here's the perfect example what air does. Now, if I was starving, literally, I might resort to cutting half of this or a third off, emptying it out, slivering off the sides, and I don't know, maybe on the inside because of the density, because mold technically can't travel through cheese, it's on the outside. If it was cottage cheese, no, for sure, it's going to travel. But this is pretty dense and thick. As a matter of fact, you can see it's even kind of like, okay, because whatever. And, you know, we eat this stuff with bagels more than anything. So, for me, it's just compost, right? The worms love it. You know, so I'm enriching the ground this year anyway. I mentioned that last year. I don't plan on planting too much, right? But I, you know, just enriching the ground for whatever reason. Outside of that, this is the result of it not being sealed. If it would have had its original seal on, the chances of this happening are nil to none. Okay? Now, Andre went downstairs because I know I have one more down there. Don't ask me how long it's been down there for, because honestly, I don't know. And then we're going to open up that one, which would probably not be opened at all. And you're going to see a difference, okay? More than likely. I mean, there's no guarantees in life, but we'll wait and see. Hold on. Okay, so this is what we're using for our next batch. So far, I have the sour cream in the fridge, which I just bought, right? Now, did you find it? What did you find? Oh, unsalted? Unsalted?
Yes.
Perfect. Oh, good. I got enough for those other.
tongue.
I got 4 more of those in the fridge yet. So, okay, I need you to open this for me. What's the date on it, though?
The date?
Yeah. Do you see a date? I can't see. Maybe it'll be in little black letters printed on, like a typewriter. No? Nothing?
No.
What about down here? Not those. It'll be just kind of off to the, like in here, under there. Doesn't even have a date.
Oh, right there.
Okay, so what does it say? It says February 14th of 2023. So we're now in April. So this is 2 months old. Okay, 2 months old.
Should be good.
Well,
Maybe.
if it was open, what would happen?
It'll mold
Why?
because it was open.
Why? What gets
Because it's
into
bad.
it? The air.
Yeah.
Air is what provokes bacteria to grow. Bacteria needs air to grow, right? Okay, so this one I don't think has been opened. So open it, because I need it. So we're going to see. Whoops. See, this is what you want. Right? See? Nothing. It's clean as day. Told you. Would help if you stirred it. It's been sitting for a while.
It's good.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. It looks good. Right. Look, it's hard as rock.
It's been in the fridge.
Well, yeah. And that's Auntie Shemay's fridge, which is even nicer because it's hardly ever opened. Right?
It's never opened.
Oh, that's so good. It can last like that for over a year or more. Unopened in your fridge. Coolest part of your fridge. So good. So we got everything that we need to do 3 more batches. I got my butter. That was the only thing I was worried about. My son's getting me one more of these, and I still have a different red one like this in the fridge. So and I've got 4 more of those. So, and that still leaves me the half and half with the milk. But I don't know. I'm leaning, as I'm doing this and thinking about it, and just with my own experience, and right. I might just avoid the milk, quote unquote, altogether, and just stick with the more heavier creams and cheeses to help with the preservation of the product after it's been sealed and heated through. So here is, pots are coming out, eh? So if you don't have a rack, just hold on a minute. So knowing what I know, knowing that I've pasteurized things, I pasteurized juice at 190. You don't have to have them boiling for 20 minutes or whatever the hell it is. You can do them at 190 for 30 minutes, and that's fine. I've pasteurized pickles. Instead of boiling them like this in vinegar or whatever, you can just have them at 20 minutes, 30 minutes at 190. Same thing with blueberries and just a few other fruits. You can do that. Okay, so if you can do that with them, you can do that with this stuff, being that this stuff prefers a lower temperature, maybe at a more consistent rate for the temperature to travel through your jar. And that's why you would extend the time in the pot compared to a pressure canner, right? If I was to do this in a pressure canner, like I did these ones, it's 10 minutes after you vent for 10 minutes. So that's like technically 20 minutes right there. And then if I do it this way at 30 minutes with the water just up to here, getting it to that boil where it's just I'll come in and check in with it with a lid on to boot for 30 minutes. You're going to get the same effect in terms of that heat traveling through and reaching a preserving method, because once you lock everything in, I'm using this as an example, based on the product and where you're going to store it. This is for fridge because it's kind of unstable, where this one is preserved for shelf. Okay? But it wouldn't matter if it was beans, beef, chicken, salmon, corn, whatever, potatoes. You'd still have to heat it up to be 100% safe from that boogeyman botulism, which may or may not be there. Okay. So that's why I feel okay about doing this, because if I was to take it right from the jar and start eating after the fact with a spoon, then I'd be saying, well, you may be taking a few unnecessary chances. If I had no choice and there was no alternative heating source where I had to heat it up and I was hungry, well, I'd eat it straight out of a jar. But, we live still to some degree where, there's, we have kitchens. So I'm feeling good. I'm only one shy block of this, which my son's going to get for me today. So that means 1 today, and I still got 2 more to go, and I'm going to pretty much take them back to back as fast as I can incorporate. And I do want to do the Great Northern beans in, I'm not sure if I'm going to use half pints or quart size, I don't know. And because I've got some corned beef, I couldn't find salted pork, and I don't want to freeze it, I just want to use it. So I'm kind of compelled to do these beans, unless of course I want to chuck that corned beef into, I could can them into smaller jars, I suppose, keep it simple on myself and do beans another day, being that I'm going to go into ham and ham hocks and bacon. But I kind of wanted to, I'm testing. I wanted a few beans. Probably doing this size, a few of them. That would be enough for upstairs. A quart size would be better for downstairs, because Marcane makes for himself, his girlfriend, Andre, and sometimes I eat. Where I just basically make for Andre, myself, and Amari. So this size would be good for me, where a quart size would be good for Marcane in terms of beans And in this situation, we'd be using corned beef, or I might even sliver off some of that ham hock and do a few jars with just ham hock and beans. So that's what I'm doing right now, right? Be done with it. And, you know, I just wanted to share my experience with you when it comes to Velveeta and this type of cheese. And it really, I got cheese that's been sitting in my fridge for well over a year, an original package. I mean, like probably even maybe pushing 2 years. And they're fine. And what's going to happen to them is I'm going to dehydrate them. That's it. That's why they're there. I just haven't gotten around to dehydrating them yet. I have to make cotton dehydrator tray covers for my trays so the cotton can absorb the oils. I bought the cotton. I haven't washed it yet, and then I have to cut them into then I have to serge them or stitch them and cuckoo. I mean, I could use paper towel, but I don't want to. I want to use cotton, right? Okay, maybe I should end this video now, being that it's probably about an hour, probably. Or I can come back and, well, I don't know. I could probably just end this video now, and then I'll link in the 2 videos that I'm, or whatever, 2 or 3 videos where I don't want to say taking their lead, but, you know, I'm considering what they're showing me, and just based on my own experiences and how I do things and how I've done things, and, you know, whatever, you know, you can just see, and then you can go look there, and if you decide this is something that you want as a staple in your house, for, you know, right? I haven't figured out the cost yet. If I had to round it off for the recipe that I did yesterday, I got 6 jars, 1 popped. I could freeze it if I don't get a chance to use it in the next day or 2. Honestly, I heard that these Alfredo sauces in these jars don't last very long once they're opened. You see, and this is why I would avoid milk. This is exactly why I would avoid using milk, because if that is the case, right, if you go to a store and you buy a store-bought brand, it doesn't matter what the brand is, and they say it has about a 3-day refrigeration rate after you open your jar, and then, you know, you're pretty much done with it, right? You know, it probably has milk, because milk would be the first one to spoil out of everything that I've just shown you. Yeah, it would spoil the fastest in terms of it would start, and then once it started, other things would start. Whereas some things are just kind of locked in with you know, like butter. You know, like if it's in the fridge, it doesn't really spoil, right? Even in ambient temperature, right? It doesn't spoil. If you put it in water, it doesn't necessarily spoil, right? You know, cream, I showed you, it could be in this for another month and a bit and probably still be fine, right? It takes a long time to have whipping cream spoil on you. And of course, it may depend at the time of when they actually packaged it, right? Even though it says it's fresh, they just put it up, right? Doesn't necessarily mean that what's inside went completely fresh. Oh, speaking of that, you know, with the way the world is going and our food supply under attack, you know, and just how governments in general are manipulating, I don't want to say just poor people, because it's not just poor people, right? But just manipulating the economy so that, you know, people are working harder, getting less pay, being mistreated, and losing benefits, or getting fired, or just whatever, losing the whole, you know, just the whole night, you know, and they go into these workhouses, you know, it just, right? Eventually it comes to workhouses, right? Let the poor work for their dinner kind of thing. And when you get to that point, and food itself becomes, I don't want to say scarce, but kind of scarce, right? But we already have it. You see, this is the thing. We already have fake food on the market. But the more that the economy becomes rancid with corruption and lack of supplies and materials and, just whatever, right? The more people are going to participate in selling fake food. So what that does is it brings me back to, I don't know what year it was, the 1500s, 1700s, 1200s. It was up in England somewhere anyway, where, in those days, they'd buy bread. People would go off and buy a loaf of bread, right? And, they eat the bread. But it turned out that, some of this bread was being made with construction chalk. But, of course, people didn't know until it was too late and got sick. Same thing with milk. They were using, I can't remember what they were using to substitute milk. Like, in other words, they weren't selling 100% whole milk, pure milk. They were selling something else with something else. It was something that really kind of started killing off kids and stuff and made them, I don't know, just... I think this is what we need to be aware of, because when I bit into that little piece of toilet paper, I'm like, okay. And then I thought about it, and I'm thinking, how easy it would be, honest to God, for a company to sneak in something. I mean, it's bad enough that they're trying to sneak in their bug meal now, right? But, when times get real tough, people, and companies are trying to cut back corners or whatever, and... depending on where it's being outsourced from, and where I don't want to pick on China, but, you don't know what you're going to be eating. So this is another reason you might want to consider doing it this way, because for all we know, these companies, when the times get real, real tough, out of 10 companies, you don't think that maybe one might not cheat and just sprinkle in a little extra something that nobody would notice? Just saying. Right? People eat paper all the time. Well, no, they don't eat paper, but paper doesn't kill you when you do eat it. So, unless, of course, maybe in large quantities, and depending where it was manufactured from when it relates to those bleaches and stuff, right? Right? Just something to think about. So that's another reason why I don't mind doing this, because I'm like, at least I know what's inside it. Yeah, at least I know what's inside it. And if the good Lord didn't want me to do it, I wouldn't have everything that I have in order to do it, because you've seen what that last cream cheese looked like. But I didn't get too panicky, because when I was down in the fridge the other day, I noticed this one, and I'm like, oh, okay, if worse comes to worse, I have backup. So I have a whole tub, enough to do 2 more batches. Plus this one. So I'm good to go. And I got the butter that I need. And I got the cheese that I need. And I got the whipping cream that I need. Right? And I got the garlic powder that I need. Right? So, maybe I'll just end this video, convert it over, upload it so it's not too long, and then we'll come back in and around the time when I'm ready to put maybe these next batch into the pot, and I'll do a little video around that so that we can experience it together. And I will provide the links to those other videos that provide these recipes and their experience, and if you want, I highly recommend you listen to them. And then if you want to do this, for sure, by all means, I would. At least I can control the toilet paper that's going into my jar, now that I know that it snuck itself in without me even realizing it. Right? Just say. And when you can buy this stuff on sale, even half of it before you go off and make it, that's where it kind of saves on cost, right? Okay. Okay, I decided just to keep kind of working on this video, right? And then after I'm done, it's in a pot, and we do it the Scandinavian kind of way, right? The old school grandma kind of way. Then we'll go into the beans, okay? That'll be a new video, because I really kind of want to can some beans today. Alright, so first thing, this jar did not seal, although it looked like it's sealed. In the fridge. But when I put it in, I just, no. So what we want to do is just get an idea of what we're looking at here in terms of myself personally, from what I can see, I think I kind of like it. Now, some people find that too thick. But when you heat it up, you know, it's going to melt a bit because there's butters and stuff. So it's going to, you know, right? But let's just say you opened up a jar that's been sitting in the pantry for 2 months. You took it to a stove, you heated it up, then you put it in another container, and you cooled it off, and now next day you want to eat it as is without it being hot, right? But you've already pre-cooked it, right? Just because, in the event of. And you wanted to use this, I don't know, maybe as a dip for chicken. Who knows? I don't know. Let me just taste it. I don't know, people. I kind of like it. Andre, you really need to come and taste this.
There.
Yeah, this little card, I don't know, it doesn't hold very much. It went blink. So anyway, Andre tasted it. He said that it kind of reminds him of ice cream along the lines of salad dressing. Right?
Yep.
Now, when I was watching one woman there, you know, after it's all said and done, I guess the different cheeses at some point, they kind of separate themselves in there. So, as I'm eating this, I mean, if you wanted to heat up a jar after you open it, cool it, put it in the fridge and get it cold, and use it as a dip for vegetables or whatever, I don't know. You could add extra spices in to suit your needs, right? In terms of like warming it up, you can still add in whatever you want, extra pepper, extra salt, whatever, garlic, whatever, spaghetti, spice, who knows, right? You can tweak it, right? For whatever noodles or whatever you're going to eat. In terms of eating it just like this, now, the only reason I'm doing this is because I just canned this last night. I seen that the jar didn't seal, so I put it in the fridge, right? So I know it's okay, right? Now I have a choice of recanning it today, or I have a choice of maybe making something, I don't know about today, but maybe tomorrow, some noodles or something, or some meat or something, or I don't know. And then, in that situation, I'll warm it up. Because what I'm finding as I'm eating it right now, cold, now mind you, that's a jar that hasn't been reheated and remelted, but I don't know if it would, I guess you can say, congeal the same after the fact. There's do you see what's happening? That could be butter. In other words, it's not going to blend up completely really, really good until you warm it up and remelt those types of I guess bits and pieces. That is not toilet paper, people. Okay, this is because there was a little piece of cream cheese that it's okay. It's rich. For anyone to say that it's not healthy for you because it has a high quote-unquote fat content, I tend to disagree. Right? I think it's a pure source of fat and protein and all that other stuff. Minus the hormones that they feed the animals and whatnot. And I think it being warmed up will blend everything up together. You whisk it and it will be really good. Whereas once it settles, and it doesn't combine as well as perhaps what you get from something like this, but then they add in other things too to help combine it so it's smooth versus coming into a little chunk of butter that melts in your mouth, or coming into a little chunk of not sour cream, cream cheese that, you know, congealed together or whatever, right? I mean, it's still workable though, right? Because in this situation, I'd probably, because I don't know what I'm doing. I'll just keep it simple. I mean, it would be interesting to add in other spices with it, but you can add in the other spices after you open your jar and put it in the pot. And then you can sprinkle in what you want, basil, whatever, right? Whatever you want, you can sprinkle it in to spice it up. And you can use it either for noodles or whatever. So I at this point, I like it. So, for what it's worth, that is. I will take the time to read on the back of this in terms of what's, see, I got this thing made now, eh? What they use for ingredients. I can't see nothing right now. And, you know, maybe when it's cooking, that's when I'll read it, and then I'll come back and tell you what's being omitted. So in the meantime, that's the cheese, right? Sour cream, 1 cup sour cream, 2 cups cream cheese, 250 grams, which is a little over 8 ounces of Parmesan. I'm going with the whipping cream. I already got the butter in the pot. I will continue to use the garlic as is, which is about 5 teaspoons. I'm not in the mood to be putting black pepper in it, but I don't know where, I'm sure I have white pepper somewhere in this house, but don't ask me where it is. So I'll probably omit the pepper for now, but I will add salt, Himalayan sea salt, right? And just the garlic. And then after the fact, when I go to reheat it, and after it's been cooked for a while, taste it, then I'll decide what I want, because you can always add pepper on your plate. You can use a spaghetti spice on top, a Greek, whatever you want, right? You know, they come, right? The clubhouse, different kinds of spices, which I have tons of around the house. You could add nutmeg to this if you wanted to. So let me get this in cooking and get them in the jars. And then once I get them in the jars, I'm going to put them in my pot with the water. And we're going to try it this way. So hold on a minute. Like, for example, right? You could cook up that. And then after it's mostly done, just throw in your jar, heat it all up, put that lid on, give it about 10 minutes. Oh man, that'd be so good. Yeah. Yeah. With some breaded chicken or something off to the side. Oh, that'd be good, people. That'd be good. And full of calories. You see? That's the thing. This is full. Full. I don't even know. I should actually try and figure out what the calorie count on this is. Right? Because this would be great in terms of just that calorie count. Okay, so when in doubt, if you do this, right, and you feel kind of uncomfortable about it after you're all said and done, and you're like, oh, I wasted all that money, and da 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 da. You know, you can simply pop it, take it as is, and put it in the freezer and freeze it. Just saying. And then, I don't think it will rise, as right? Because it's pretty congealed for the most part. But if it does a little bit, you can always sliver off the top and then put the top back on and screw on the band. And you can freeze it, right? Wide mouth jars would be better for that than these, but besides that point, either or. I'm just saying, right? Now, because I know how cream, I'm Ukrainian, right? Kind of, So, I kind of know how cream can tolerate heat, right? And if you combine the butter in with the cream, onions, right? You can boil it for a while. It's not going to caramelize, quote unquote, the cream. It will thicken it up a little bit, but it's not going to caramelize it. And there's not enough milk butter in there, I don't think, to... So what I'm going to do different this time, for the sake of just trying to do something different here, is I'm just going to bring it up to a boil, actually. Yeah, I think so. That's what I want to do. And as you can see, I'm keep stirring, right, with the whisk, right, so it doesn't start sticking on the bottom. But I want to bring this cream up myself personally to a boil before I put in the cream cheese and the Parmesan cheese. Now I did start to read on these jars as best as I could the calorie count. One has more calories than the other. For a half a cup, I think it was 145. I don't know which one is which. Okay, this one is 145 calories. I'm pretty sure for a half a cup. And this is Western Family. And to be honest with you, I find that interesting, and I'm going to tell you why in a second. Okay, so this cream is starting to boil, and when it starts to boil, it's going to start to rise. So pay attention to that. Okay? So I'm going to take it off the stove. I'm going to turn down my heat to about 4. And now I am going to add, and don't forget there's sour cream in there as well, right? Now I'm going to add my cream cheese. You have to melt it. I'm not going to be so fickle about being so gentle with it. I'm going to be a little more aggressive with it in terms of, it's okay if it melts a little faster. I don't think, just if I was using milk, then maybe, I don't know, because again, milk seems to be a little more fickle than the rest of these products. And then that, right, that's the Parmesan cheese. Put it back on the burner at 4 now. Now I'm just going to cook it on 4 to melt the cheeses, right? And I guess you put the seasoning in after the fact. Now maybe I just filled this up with fresh pepper. So when the time comes, maybe I'll just, right? I'll call it Pepper Alfredo. Right? Now, what I'm finding with Western Family Foods, which is connected to Save On Foods, okay? Because you know I'm always looking for those calories. They had Green Giant. No, this is not it. They had Green Giant cream corn on sales, cream style, right? And then these ones were not on sale, but they were a little cheaper. And this is the Western Family one again, I think. Or President Choice, I don't know. It's just, you know, the company name, right? What's this one? Oh boy. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. Yeah, Western Family. Western Family, which is connected to Save On Foods. Okay? That's their, like, Walmart has what they call Great Value. Save On Foods has what they call Western Family. Okay. So anyway, I'm like, oh, canned corn. You know I'm looking for cans, right? So I looked on the back of the cans, and whether whole kernel or cream corn, to which I wanted some. Now, by doing what I did here, I noticed that the cream cheese melted much faster than if you were trying to heat everything up slow. Like, it's already melted. Right? And I honestly don't think it did any damage. I don't. Well, now I know why they put this in there. You have to give it some kind of flavor. Right? I had it, oh, here we go. So they say about 5. I'm pretty sure this is what this is here. So, okay, let's talk about this corn. So I look at the back of Green Giant's cream style corn for calorie count, and I notice that it's quite low. 70 calories to whatever, right? And then I look at the Western Family one, and it was like almost double. And I'm like, well, that's strange. Where did they get those calories from? It's the same kind of product, but why does one have more calories and the other one doesn't? Where are those calories specifically coming in from? I know it seems like 5 teaspoons of garlic powder is a lot, but no, it's not. You need that. Because the actual base of this is kind of bland, but it's high in calories, right? And it's got those animal fats and proteins and stuff, so that's good, right? Especially in times of what we're going to be coming into. Alright, I hope you can hear me over here. I don't know, that camera just seems, because normally I'm on this side of the stove, not on this side. I need to bring out the jars, so I decided to use this for and I'm going to use, at least a good teaspoon of salt, if not 2. I want it to have a bit more bite, and I will use black pepper. Other women hacking over the stove. I see them. Like me. Get over the stove. And that's what happens. Everything starts to... Oh, I can feel it. Oh. Yeah. So that's all melted and everything. That's all. That's doing good. That's like doing really good. Now I'm gonna taste it again. Because I might put another teaspoon of salt in this. I might. It's not necessary, but I might. That's good now. It's actually fine as a base for when you open it up, and you can add in extra little spices if you want, or more pepper or more salt. Other than that, I'm just going to turn it down, and I'm just going to finish talking about this for a minute. Okay, and then I'm going to jar up, and then we're going to go on to cooking it. I guess this is a long video. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is, on this can, it says for a half a cup of this cream style corn from this company, you get 110 calories. Whereas with Green Giant cream style corn, I think it was only 70. I took them downstairs already. So, and I found that to be odd, right? But I bought the ones that were on sale, which was the Green Giant cream corn. And I figured I'll come back on another day and buy these ones, you know, case of 12 or 24. And for their calorie count, right? However, I'm a little suspicious, because why is one so low and the other one is so high for the same product? What are the two companies doing different? Well, it would fall in line with the ingredients, to which we've got whole kernel corn, water, sugar, modified cornstarch, salt. So this is pretty generic in terms of ingredients. So the calorie count realistically probably comes from the sugar, people. Where else is it going to come from? Right? I mean, I don't have a comparison can of the Green Giant, but I know that their calorie count was lower, and I couldn't quite figure it out because I was in a grocery store and I didn't have time to look around. Anyway, alright, so just wanted to point that out, because what we're finding here is two different products. Again, Western Family, right? Here it says for a half a cup, right? You get 140 calories, right? Where with this brand, everybody knows it, Classic Keto, right? For a quarter cup, you get 45 calories, so you times that by 2, that's 90 calories for a half a cup, compared to, are you listening to me? 140. How is it that this one has more calories per half a cup than this one? What's so special about this one? What is Western Family adding into their product to increase the calorie count? And of course, you know I'm looking for bug protein, or maybe bug flour, or who knows, right? And they don't list it as cricket flour. They list it as something else. It starts with an A. And that's assuming that they even list it. Okay? Alright, so now here, with the Western Family, yeah. What's the ingredient list? Ingredients. You ready? Water. Nowhere in what I did I add water. Soybean oil. Nowhere what I did I add soybean oil. And if I was to use oil, I'd use either a grapeseed oil or like olive oil or something, and I would do the onion saute to whatever, or the shallot saute with the garlic right into the oil. And maybe you could even use in a little bit of wine, burn off the alcohol, and then strain out your onion pieces and your garlic pieces, and then use that as the flavoring, mainly, I suppose, as a base to start pouring in your creams and your cheeses and everything else. But here they use, I'm just saying, soya oil and or canola oil. Then we've got cream, milk cream. So what is that, half and half? Or is it whole cream? I don't know. It doesn't say. Doesn't say whipping. And then it goes in with the modified cornstarch, because that's what they use as a thickener, because it's more stable for cooking. It's quite expensive. It isn't necessarily, there's only so many things that you can use as a thickener, right, per se. You don't want to use flours and those kind of things, or whatever, right? Try to avoid those because you want the heat to travel through. But besides that point, modified cornstarch is pretty popular. It isn't necessarily, quote unquote, optimally good for you, but that's what people use, whether home canning things or whether they are doing it through commercial canning. And then we've got whey protein concentrate. We have Parmesan cheese. Then we have modified egg yolk. There is no egg in this. Autolyzed yeast extract. Roasted garlic powder. Xanthan gum. Black pepper. Lactic acid, and some big freaking word that's probably got about 25 letters attached to it. That one I'm suspicious. Dimethylpoly something something axan. And then contains milk, eggs. Alright. This one, and this one has more calories. Okay? This one has less calories, and when you're going into a world where, I don't want to say famine is going to become common, but definitely the numbers struggling with food insecurity has increased 100-fold, if not more. And there is no end in sight, right? So, you need calories, right? With minerals and vitamins and those kind of things. Like I said, where did they get all those calories in whole corn that's been creamed compared to another brand that has half those calories? Because something else is being added to fill in those calories, which could very well just simply be good old white sugar. I'm just saying, could be. I don't know. So this one here, you don't want it to burn on the bottom, right? So I'm just keeping it warm right now a little bit. It's ready. It's ready to go into jars. And you've seen how fast that took. It didn't take very long. And I'm not concerned about caramelizing whipping cream or scorching butter. If I was using milk, then yeah, maybe I'd be more apt to slow it down in terms of dealing with the heat. So this one here, 45 calories to half quarter cup. So half a cup is 90 calories, so you've lost 50 calories somewhere along the line. Where are the ingredients? Ingredients. Water, again. Cream. Cheese. Parmesan. Romano. Ricotta. Aslan. Yo. I guess these are all different types of cheeses. Modified cornstarch. Sugar. Salt. Enzyme modified egg yolk. Cooking wine. See, I could do that. I got cooking wine here. It's old, but I could do that maybe with the next batch. I don't have shallots, but I do have onions. But the onions I bought for the beans, so I don't know. We'll see. Dry Vermont sulfites, natural flavors, sodium phosphate, dehydrated garlic, xanthan gum, spice, and gum abric. Don't know any of those things. I don't know. I don't know what that means. Right? It tells you, open up the jar, put it into a pot, heat it up good, then pour it over hot noodles. They don't tell you you can eat it right out of the jar. They tell you you have to heat it up. I'm just saying, right? So, no guarantees in life. People get food poisoning more from commercial foods and restaurants than they do from home canning. Statistically, that is. It should tell you how to serve this. Refrigerate after opening. Oh boy. Imported by, right? Directions. Simmer over low heat, stirring occasionally. Do not microwave in jar. So this one too, simmer over low heat. So, what is the difference? If you gotta cook up this one and simmer it for a little while, it's the same rule, it applies. The only difference is you're not getting those additive preservatives or sugar for that matter. And why would they put sugar in this? Think about it. I mean, I could put sugar in there. If they're putting sugar in it, I can put sugar in it. Right? But I'm more interested in sauteing some shallots with some garlic, with some olive oil, and then throwing a bit of wine, burn off the alcohol, drain my liquid after the fact, and then pour in my cream, and then follow up on continuing to do what I'm doing as I add in more cheese, like the Romano cheese or whatever other cheese. There's 4 different kinds you can really kind of work with when you're doing this stuff. And then, what I'm going to do, I'll try to do it. It's good. I will try and just do a quick guesstimate in regards to the calorie count between everything that I used as ingredients, and then divvy it up, I guess, between how many pints I get, right? I don't know, I'm not very good at that. But, yeah, so hold on a minute. Okay, so remember, no toilet paper. I'm just saying. Right. So, I get 6 jars 2 times in a row for what the amount of ingredients that I used, which one of those women lists them. I just copy and paste, put it to Word, and then I print them out. Right? So you can either do that for yourself or you can write it out by hand. It's pretty straightforward. Obviously, I've pointed out that there's room for flexibility, right? You can actually get creative with it. You have a choice of different cheeses, right? Nothing's holding you back. If you want, you can add a little bit of wine into it and, you know, do a gourmet chef style technique. Whoops. Right? That's why you don't want vinegar on that, because that would boop, right? That begin to curdle your product, and you don't want that to happen. I took it, except for one jar here, looks closer to, oh, it's pushing about 1.5 inches, getting close to that. Whereas the other ones are anywhere between 1 inch and 3/4. I'm not, like I said, putting this in a pressure canner. If I'm looking here, now these are lug lids, right? And you do lug lids in water baths, people. Duh. Okay, I don't think you can lug lid. I don't think you can, maybe you can pressure can a lug lid, but I don't know about that. Anyway, you can see that they've got it up high in terms of their headspace, right? Everybody else is recommending one inch, but I'm going a little higher. And now we're going to move this over. I've already heated it up, right? Got my jars ready. Just have to put the lids on, screw on the bands, finger tight. You can finger tight. You can see this one here is a little low. I could backtrack and scoop off a few, but I'm just going to leave as is for now. This one right there, that's almost 1 inch. That's probably, from what I'm a seamstress, so, you know, and you know, some things you never forget. That's probably more like a 3/4 inch, 3/4 inch, pushing a little bit of 1 inch. That's definitely 3/4 of an inch. That's a cross between 3/4 and 1 inch, and that's looking at getting up to 1 and 1.5. I mean, I could take out, and I probably should, but I'm not going to worry about it right now, people. I'm not going to worry about it. Based on those other ones, they look like they're very high. And when you do stuff like this, you can bring up, you can have a 1/4 inch off the rim, okay? In terms of when you're pasteurizing at 190, or in this case, I'll have a bit of a boil, just a low boil on it, right? And but I'm not covering up the jars with the water, because you want to prevent siphoning. As long as the water line is basically meeting your jar where the food is, it should be fine. Oh, yeah. So, see. So, let me come back. Hold on. Okay, so my stove is kind of crooked. You can see that. This is a pretty big pot in terms of, see, this is why they kind of just bring it right to the, as the jar is curling, they bring it right just to the curl. but you have a very large headspace, which isn't always necessarily good. Okay, there's a reason why they like things at a 1/4 inch headspace, especially when it comes to liquids and stuff like that. I notice, like juices and stocks and whatever, right? You know, so anyway, I'm going to put the lid on this now. Right, hold on. Oh boy. And this is where you need to keep an eye on it because it's on max. So just as it's coming to a boil, that's when you turn it down, and you just have it on that low medium boil, right? As a matter of fact, I can leave this on until I start seeing it boiling. When I see it starting to boil, if I was pasteurizing at 190, I wouldn't even let it come to a boil. But in this situation, we're going to want apparently a low boil, right? And you do this for like 30 minutes or something like that. I'm going to do mine for 30. I don't justify doing this for an hour. I don't think it's necessary for an hour. Okay. You just want to give it enough time for the heat to go through it and to seal the jar. After 10, and when you bring it to a boil, right, and it's going to hold, and when you put your lid on, it's going to hold that temperature, right, for the most part. And then it only takes, really, like whenever you want to disinfect something in a pot with boiling water, it's only 10 minutes, right? Not that this needs to be disinfected. The jars were disinfected and whatever, right? And even the ones they sell in the stores, you have to heat them up, right? They say, you know, they recommend it. They're hoping that you'll do it. Most people would. Most people wouldn't want to eat that cold. But if you wanted to, I would still recommend heating it up. Cook it for that 10 minutes on a low-medium boil, and then cool it down, put it in the fridge, spice it up with something, add in extra cheese if you want, and use it as a dip. Who knows? I'm just saying. The point is it's high in calories, and what I'm doing is there's none of that other stuff in it, right? I'm not saying that other stuff is necessarily bad, but I have to get a new stove. When I leave this house, I want a new stove. As much as I love my stove, I went off and I bought new burners, and I don't know. I guess I didn't get the right kind, or maybe just the stove itself in general is, you have to change parts all the time, right? One burner for General Electric costed me like 80 bucks. So anyway, I needed a burner for the back, and I bought these burners for a set of 4 for like 70 bucks. They plug in, but they're not working as good as they should. So yeah, you see, now where we're at right now with the steam coming up, we're getting close to that 190 point. So if you're going to be doing juice or pickles and that kind of thing, that's where you just maintain your water at 190, right? And you can see it's almost ready to get boiling. So here we're going to bring it just a little to a small boil. And once we get it to that small boil, then we're going to put this on, but we'll have to turn down the heat, because you have to remember, you put this on, whatever boil you got going on there, if you keep it at the same heat, it's just going to end up overflowing, right? So we don't want it to overflow. So hold on. Okay, so these little buggers, they might be siphoning even before I speak. I don't know. It's hard to say. If they are, it's just, I don't know. So I brought it almost to that boil, then I put the lid on, and then I turned it down, but I think I turned it down too fast, because now I'm having to turn it back up because I'm looking for the boil, right? That gentle boil, right? Normally when you're pasteurizing, you don't want no boil. You just want it at that 190, right? And after 3 minutes, you've basically gotten rid of all the bacteria and the pathogens and all that. And then when you go on to 20 or 30 minutes, or depending on like pickles, 15 minutes or whatever, it's just long enough to basically seal the jar, right? But in this situation, we want to make sure that the heat travels right through. So basically I've got it on 7 right now, which is probably too high, but we'll just let it heat up a little bit more. I kind of see something rumbling around in there. It would help if I could see better, but whatever. Can't have everything you want. You can hear it. Yeah, go for the sound, right? You'll be able to hear it. So at 7, it's starting to bubble in there. So we don't want it boiling too hard, so I'm going to put it on 6. And then once I get it to where I think I want it, then that's when I'll start my time, and I'll just do it for 30 minutes. I mean, like, what the hell, right? Okay, so before I turn this off, my son came home with 2 of these. Okay. Where I've been using this size. I don't know. Let's see. This is a special kind of Parmesan. The other ones were blue. I don't know. This is 250 grams. I've been basically using the whole thing minus that little part that I've been eating. Okay. Yeah, see, once it starts boiling, you can turn it down just a bit. So now I'm going to 5.5, because we don't want a hard boil, right? We just want a nice gentle boil. Okay? And I can probably take it now at 30 minutes. Because it is bubbling in there. Okay. All right. And then this is $7.62. Parmesan cheese. I don't know how much it is in terms of weight. 201 kg. 1 kg is 2.2 pounds. So that's not even a pound. I guess that's why he bought 2 of them. This one's 202, this one's 201. So that's 403 kg. I don't know what that is in grams. Anyway, 762 and 766, so $15.25 or something or so for that. Okay. This one was 20. This one was $20. So were the other ones. 19 something, right? Okay, now it's speeding up, so just turn it down just a tad. You don't want a hard boil, you want a soft boil, right? So now you can just turn it down just a tad, just to keep it at a low boil. Because you're trying to prevent siphoning. That's what's happening here, right? And I guess the caramelization of the milk products. Although cream doesn't really caramelize. Okay, so in terms of calories, I'm curious. Three centimeter cubes, or 28 grams equals 110 calories. So I'd have to put it on a weight scale and figure that out. Per 3 centimeter cube. Centimeter. So That's not, that's a lot of calories. So now we're at a little almost between 3.5 and 4. Okay? That's pretty good. You can hear it. And then this one, same thing, per 3 centimeter cube, or in this case 38 grams. Again, you're looking at 110 calories. So this is high in calories. Which is good. And then if you add in other cheeses, and don't forget we've got the sour cream, which I don't know how much, I'd have to calculate the calorie count, right? And you don't have to use sour cream. You could use that Romano cheese, or however you pronounce it. And then there's another cheese, and then there's another cheese, which I might do at some point in the future, just for the fun of it. Try it out. Right? We'll see how long these hold up. Because the whole purpose of the exercise is making it stable, like that container, that cream cheese in that plastic container, like a yogurt container with the silver on top. That can sit for over a year. I'm telling you, 2 years it can sit. It won't do anything, right? But as soon as you open it and you get air inside, that's it. It's no good. Same thing with Velveeta cheese. Well, Velveeta cheese, if it was to start to mold, it's maybe not so porous, and so the cream cheese, like, I'm not starving, so that it could be worm food. Good for the garden. It adds calcium to the garden. It's because I don't always get out, right? And I don't like to freeze bagels, because if I freeze bagels, they get all soggy when you take them out of the freezer, and Andre doesn't like it. And whatever. And last time we got bagels, he opened up a new cream cheese, and I was wanting to make cream cheese cake, but I never got around to it, and it didn't take long for that to happen, probably about a month for it to mold up like that. But if I would have just left it in the fridge where it was without opening it, it'd still be fine. So that's why I feel comfortable with this, because it's out of the elements. There's no air in there outside of, you have to heat it up like you would any canning process when it comes to this kind of stuff. So I don't know if you'll be able to see this. I can barely see it. All right. And we're at about 3. So that's a gentle boil. You don't want it much harder than that. And I don't think you want it much less than that, unless, of course, you want to get into your pasteurizing temperatures. And we're just a little past that point. So don't take off the lid. Just let it do what it needs to do. So hold on. Okay, so my 30 minutes is up, but do you see that? Now I'm just going to give it another 10 more minutes. This pot, maybe I should have had it on that burner, but this, it's just nothing leveling. The stove itself is not level. The burners are old, just whatever. But besides that point, I have a little hole here. Obviously, it's evaporating out a little bit. I wanted to see, I had a metal lid I could have put on there that would have prevented any evaporation, but that's okay. So I'm just going to give it an extra 10 minutes just for the sake of giving it an extra 10 minutes, because I've got it at the boil where I want it, right? That with that low, with that low medium boil. And so before I disrupt it, oh my, come on, why does it do, there we go. before I disrupt it, I'm just going to add on an extra 10 minutes just for whatever reason I want. Right? Because that's kind of the boil that you want. I can see that the water level is dropping slightly, but you know, you don't want to move things around. And then when the time is up, I'm just going to turn off the burner, and I'm going to let this sit for about 10-15 minutes just to cool down a bit on its own. And before I take off the lid real fast, I would just move it slightly and just crack it a bit, right? Because that's what other women do to try and prevent that siphoning, okay? Because, you know, it's a little greasy and a little gritty, and I mean, yes, when you can meat, it siphons out and stuff, and, you know, one jar sealed, one jar didn't. I took the rest of it and I froze it in the freezer, so the 2 jars seem to be doing pretty good right now. I'm getting my tomatoes, right? I just popped these right now in the freezer. They're looking good. So, hold on. Okay, so I took off the lid, and you can see what's going on there. It doesn't look that bad. I mean, now everything's cloudy for me. Right? But it doesn't look like it's siphoned off too much. Initially, when I put the jars in and started boiling the water, like, not boiling, but heating up the water, I felt like something had already siphoned even before I even got into the whole process of doing this. But whatever it was stopped. Because that water, in my mind, through my eyes, does not look as clear as it was when it first went into the pot. Now, mind you, this is an old pot, right? So, you know, it could be just the glare coming off the pot, because I don't see things correctly, right? See, this jar here is a... Oh, my, sorry. Sure, ruin your camera. That jar there has already sealed. Okay? From what I can tell, they look like they pretty much all sealed, but you don't touch them. Don't touch them so they pop down, because if you do that, it creates a false seal. You just want to leave them alone and let them seal themselves. Okay, that's important. You'd be like, is that sealed? And you go and you touch it, but that's a false seal. You don't want that. So just don't touch it. Just let it be. And now we're going to let it cool. You can see how nice and, I mean, I'm blind, but white likes to glare at me. And to me, that looks pretty white from what I can see, right? And because I've pasteurized pickles, I've pasteurized, that's how I do my juice, right? Go into my, and I'm going to be making, I bought these things. I've decided I don't, because I want to get into the smoothie making stuff. So they had them on sale, so I bought a whole bunch, and just as to put it in to get things started. I drank out of it, and honestly, I will just spend $100 on fruit, come home and juice it, and I'll use some of my mulberries, and I'll cook them and juice them, and I'll combine everything together. Might even throw in a few dates, cook them, and then, you know, eventually just strain them. And I'm going to make my own juices, and I'm going to can them in quart-sized jars. I like that. And in a situation like that, that's when I would pasteurize. Yeah. But if you're getting into vegetable juice, then that would probably be different. But fruit, I'd have to read up again. It's been so long, right? Because of the low acid, right? You might have to pressure can that, or yeah, probably pressure can vegetable juice, unless of course it had a high concentration of tomato with the acid in it. But even then, I don't know. I just want to can my own fruit juice. I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's apples, strawberries. Maybe I'll do a whole bunch of blueberry juice. I'll just, when my farms come, oh yeah, definitely. And I'll do them in this size. So they're great for when you're making those super drinks for convenience purposes. So I'll do between quarts and pints. Or maybe even half pints, a few of them. You know, just put it in and throw in the rest of your stuff, and zip, 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 and you're good to go. Because this, honestly, kind of like tasted more like water. Just saying, right? So yeah, when I was comparing the two products in terms of, because I'm always looking for those calories, right? And I had a choice between Green Giant with lesser calories versus this brand with more calories. I kind of got a little suspicious, even though they were the same kind of product. And I thought, no, I'm just going to go with the brand name Green Giant, and, you know, I'll stop and really think about why the calorie count is so high in this brand when it's exactly the same, basically the same product. Right, and I would probably contribute it to more than likely sugar. Yeah, I would think so. I don't think modified starch has a lot of calories. I don't. So those look pretty good. What time is it? Oh my God. Oh. It's almost 6 o'clock in the afternoon, as if I'm going to start canning beans, right? I want to use this brain fog. That's what this creates, is a lot of brain fog. Corned beef. And I got to work in the yard. So maybe what I'll do is I'll rest, maybe take a small nap, and then get up and work on the first batch of beans. I don't know. I mean, it's corned beef. It will sit in its vacuum sealed bag for a little while. But I've already had it for 4 or 5 days, so I kind of just want to get up on it, right? Only thing is I didn't soak the beans overnight. So I'm going to have to do a quick soak, as if I know how to do a quick soak. I think you pick through your beans, wash them, throw them in a pot, put some water in. Actually, I would prefer to do it this way. Put some water in, bring them up to a boil, boil them for 10 minutes to boil off any toxins. And then you can boil them for a little longer if you want, or you can just simply strain them. Or no, just take them off the stove and let them sit for a while in that warm water, and then rinse them off. And then I'll use those for my jars. I don't know. I don't can beans, but I want it for those staples, right? Just to start using them, right? To start building in, prepare meals around them. So here we are. This is what we've got so far, right? We've got, well, I did 12 jars since yesterday, right? 2 different batches, right? Did them a little different in terms of how I preserved them. I'm confident with both, myself, right? And 1 jar didn't seal from the first batch, where this one, as much as I'd like to touch, I can't. They have to, actually, I have to just leave them there now for a while. They look like, from what I can see, right, shadowing, right, I'm going based on shadowing, it looks like they already all sealed. And because you didn't get a lot of siphoning, your rims are going to be fairly clean, right? And those seals will probably stay. But these jars really should be in a cool, dark place. So north wall, closer to the floor. The north wall is your best friend, when it comes to stuff like this.